When sizing electrical feeders for multiple welding receptacles, it's crucial to assume all receptacles are simultaneously in use. This is the default assumption unless you can definitively prove and enforce that only a limited number of welders will be operating at any given time. The basis for this approach lies in the fact that each receptacle represents a potential connection point. An electrical inspector is justified in assuming that the customer has the potential to connect any number of welders up to the total number of receptacles installed. To realistically reduce the feeder size, you need a verifiable and enforceable method to limit the number of simultaneously operating welders. One way to accomplish this is by implementing a welder lockout system. This system involves installing a keyed receptacle for each welder connection point. The welder operator must insert a physical key into the receptacle before plugging in their welder. Once the welder is plugged in and operational, the key is removed and secured in a central location such as a tool crib or a designated lockbox. The purpose of this key management is to physically limit the number of available keys, thereby restricting the number of welders that can be simultaneously connected to the electrical system. The key control should be robust and strictly enforced to prevent unauthorized duplication or access to the keys. Another method for limiting the number of simultaneously operating welders is to install a welder interlock system. This type of system uses a network of interlocked electrical switches to control the power supply to the welding receptacles. When a welder is connected to a receptacle, the corresponding switch for the receptacle closes, completing the electrical circuit and allowing the welder to operate. However, the interlock system is designed so that when a predetermined number of welders are in use, for example, 3 welders, the system prevents any additional receptacles from being energized. This is achieved through a series of interconnected switches that are mechanically or electrically linked. When the limit is reached, any attempt to connect another welder will either be physically blocked or will not receive power. The design of an interlock system must be carefully engineered to ensure that it functions reliably and cannot be easily bypassed or overridden. The installation of either a welder lockout system or a welder interlock system must be accompanied by clear documentation and training for all personnel who operate the welding equipment. The documentation should outline the purpose of the system, the procedures for using it, and the consequences of violating the system's rules. Training should be provided to all welders, supervisors, and maintenance personnel to ensure that they understand how the system works and how to operate it correctly. The documentation should also include a detailed wiring diagram of the system, including the size of the feeder, the overcurrent protection devices, and the location of all the components. This will help with troubleshooting and maintenance in the future. In addition to implementing a control system, it's also important to consider the duty cycle of the welders. The duty cycle refers to the percentage of time that a welder can operate at its rated current before it overheats. If the welders have a low duty cycle, it may be possible to further reduce the feeder size. However, it's important to carefully consider the actual operating conditions of the welders and to ensure that the feeder is adequately sized to handle the maximum current demand. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, provides guidance on sizing feeders for welders. The NEC requires that feeders be sized to carry the maximum current demand of the welders, taking into account the duty cycle and any applicable diversity factors. However, the NEC also allows for the use of engineering judgment in determining the feeder size, provided that the feeder is adequately sized to handle the expected load. When sizing feeders for welders, it's important to consult with a qualified electrical engineer to ensure that the feeder is adequately sized and that all applicable codes and standards are met. The engineer will be able to assess the specific operating conditions of the welders and to determine the appropriate feeder size. Firstly, gather the nameplate data from each welder. This includes the rated primary current, the duty cycle, and the input voltage. Secondly, determine the maximum number of welders that are expected to operate simultaneously, considering any lockout or interlock systems in place. Thirdly, calculate the total connected load by summing the rated primary currents of all the welders that could potentially operate simultaneously. Fourthly, apply a demand factor to the total connected load based on the duty cycle of the welders and any applicable diversity factors. The demand factor is a percentage that represents the fraction of the total connected load that is expected to be in use at any given time. Fifthly, determine the minimum feeder ampacity by multiplying the total connected load by the demand factor. This will give you the minimum current carrying capacity that the feeder must be able to handle. Sixthly, select a conductor size that is adequate to carry the minimum feeder ampacity based on the ampacity tables in the NEC. The ampacity tables list the allowable current carrying capacity of various conductor sizes based on the conductor material, insulation type, and installation method. Seventhly, select an overcurrent protection device such as a circuit breaker or fuse that is sized to protect the feeder conductors. The overcurrent protection device should be sized no larger than the allowable ampacity of the feeder conductors. Eighthly, consider the voltage drop in the feeder. Voltage drop is the reduction in voltage that occurs as electricity flows through a conductor. Excessive voltage drop can cause equipment to malfunction or operate inefficiently. The NEC recommends that voltage drop be limited to 3% for branch circuits and 5% for feeders. Ninthly, ensure that the feeder is properly grounded and bonded. Grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to trip the overcurrent protection device and prevent electrical shock. Bonding connects all metal parts of the electrical system together, which helps to equalize the voltage and prevent electrical shock. Tenthly, consult with a qualified electrical engineer to ensure that the feeder is adequately sized and that all applicable codes and standards are met. The engineer will be able to assess the specific operating conditions of the welders and to determine the appropriate feeder size. The NEC section 630 covers electric welders. This section provides specific requirements for the installation and wiring of electric welders, including the sizing of conductors, overcurrent protection, and grounding. NEC 630.11 states that the conductors supplying one or more welders shall have an ampacity not less than the calculated value determined by 630.11 AON or ATWO as applicable. NEC 630.11 AON applies to individual welders and requires the conductor ampacity to be not less than the welder's rated primary current. NEC 630.11 ATWO applies to groups of welders and allows for a demand factor to be applied to the total rated primary currents of the welders. The demand factor is based on the number of welders and their duty cycles. NEC Table 630.11 ATWO provides demand factors for groups of welders. These demand factors range from 100% for one welder to 40% for 6 or more welders. However, these demand factors are only applicable if the welders have similar duty cycles. If the welders have different duty cycles, a more detailed calculation is required. The NEC also requires that the overcurrent protection for welder circuits be sized in accordance with 630.12. This section provides specific requirements for the sizing of fuses and circuit breakers for welder circuits. The general rule is that the overcurrent protection device should be sized no larger than 200% of the welder's rated primary current. However, there are some exceptions to this rule depending on the type of welder and the type of overcurrent protection device. In addition to the NEC, there may be other applicable codes and standards that must be followed when installing welding equipment. These codes and standards may vary depending on the location and the type of facility. It is important to consult with the local electrical inspector and to ensure that all applicable codes and standards are met. Consider a scenario where you have 10 welding receptacles but only plan to operate a maximum of 3 welders simultaneously. Each welder has a rated primary current of 50 amps at 480 volts and a 60% duty cycle. Without any control system, you must size the feeder for all 10 receptacles as if they could all be in use at the same time. The total connected load would be 10 welders times 50 amps per welder, which equals 500 amps. However, since the welders have a 60% duty cycle, you can apply a demand factor. According to NEC Table 630.11 ATWO, the demand factor for 10 welders with a 60% duty cycle is 55%. Therefore, the minimum feeder ampacity would be 500 amps times 55%, which equals 275 amps. You would then need to select a conductor size that is adequate to carry 275 amps, based on the ampacity tables in the NEC. If you install a welder lockout system that limits the number of simultaneously operating welders to 3, you can significantly reduce the feeder size. In this case, the total connected load would be 3 welders times 50 amps per welder, which equals 150 amps. Applying the same demand factor of 55%, the minimum feeder ampacity would be 150 amps times 55%, which equals 82.5 amps. This is a significant reduction compared to the 275 amps required without the lockout system. The installation of a welder interlock system would yield similar results to the lockout system. By limiting the number of simultaneously operating welders, you can reduce the feeder size and save on material costs. However, it is important to carefully consider the specific operating conditions of the welders and to ensure that the feeder is adequately sized to handle the maximum current demand. In summary, when sizing feeders for multiple welding receptacles, it is essential to assume that all receptacles are in use simultaneously unless there is a verifiable method to ensure that only a limited number of welders will be operating at any one time. Welder lockout and interlock systems are effective methods for limiting the number of simultaneously operating welders and can significantly reduce the feeder size. Always consult with a qualified electrical engineer to ensure that the feeder is adequately sized and that all applicable codes and standards are met. Remember to consult the NEC, specifically Article 630, for specific requirements related to welders. Following these guidelines will ensure a safe and efficient electrical system for your welding operations.